Series 9, Episode 12 of Doctor Who, Heaven Sent, is in my opinion the pinnacle of the entire series, and believe me, I understand how strong of a proposition that is. For a show that's lasted more than half a century, with nearly 1,000 episodes, countless spin-off TV shows, books, comics, audio dramas, a movie, and all the fan works too, to pick out any single episode as the best of the best is a very loaded statement. But I truly think Heaven Sent fits the bill. So enough with the intro. This is why Heaven Sent is the greatest episode of Doctor Who. First things first, this episode showcases some absolutely stellar sci-fi, even if it weren't loaded with some of the most potent, emotional, and thematic content of the series. The fascinating story of the Doctor trapped in a mysterious castle, slowly figuring out how to avoid the ever-present danger of the Veil, all while piecing together the rules of this strange prison and finding his way to the mysterious Room 12. Mwah! Chef's kiss, it's astounding. I especially love how the episode is sprinkled with little hints, tiny blink and you'll miss it clues that only become relevant once the mystery is finally answered at the end of the story. The sand filling up the teleporter room, the clothes by the fireplace, the picture of Clara, the skulls. Each of these point toward an answer that the viewer could never ever guess in, well, 4.5 billion years, but make repeat viewings of the episode so much richer and more rewarding. And the answer to that mystery? My god, the answer! The idea that the Doctor has been trapped here for billions of years, brute forcing his way through time. Not only does it add an incredible story to the ever-growing compendium of reasons that our main character is an astounding hero, but it also completely reframed the way we viewers think about traveling through time. Who in their right mind would think to burn their own body as fuel for a teleporter to reconstitute a previous version of themselves? And beyond that, who would think to do so over and over and over and over and over again as a means of overcoming some impossible trial? What astounds me about this episode is that there wasn't just one great idea, but dozens of amazing ideas, all flowing together into a fantastic story filled with twists and turns and an unforgettable ending. An ending that combines the heroic ideal of several different archetypes into one. Only a character as intelligent as the Doctor could cook up such an inane, ridiculous plan. But also, he's the meathead who looked at a diamond wall and decided to punch his way through it. The dichotomy of intelligence and stupidity is so brilliant and so the Doctor. I truly, truly mean it when I say this episode would still be one of the best if it did not include any of the emotional beats from the previous episode. But the fact that this story directly follows Face the Raven is what elevates it to the greatest episode in the history of Doctor Who. Strap in, boys and girls, we've made it to the part of the video where I'm probably going to cry. I'd like to start with an excerpt from an old interview with Stephen Moffat on the writing of this episode. Essentially, I was thinking, what is grief? How do I make grief the monster of the week in Doctor Who? I thought people always talk about grief as being alone, so I made the Doctor absolutely alone. Grief comes and finds you every time you stop or rest, so I gave him the Veil. And grief is waking up to the same pain every day and trying to smash through it, so I gave him a diamond wall to punch for the rest of time. Basically, he wore away a mountain with his tears. So that was an attempt to do Aftermath, an insane sci-fi operatic version of the Doctor's grief at losing Clara and trying to move on. Heaven Sent tackles the incredibly human experience of grieving those you've lost, of trying to move on, and how trapped you can feel in the isolation of this new, cold absence. As soon as the Doctor loses Clara, he's thrust into this new place. He's alone, he's angry, but most of all, he misses her. Not in the despair of the manic 10th Doctor, slumped against the wall, shedding tears over the newly departed Rose. Not in the melancholy of the 11th, who broke his usual cheerful persona to sulk alone, hidden from the world atop a cloud. 12 misses Clara through the realization of his loss of familiarity. I'd liken it to a much more dull, aching pain, as opposed to the previous doctor's sharp, quick pain. You can see the sadness in his eyes when he forgets Clara isn't there to witness his psychic connection with the door. You gain insight into how he's feeling when we literally look inside his mind. There, in his most quiet, personal place, he imagines Clara there to hear him, to bounce ideas off of, to crack wise with, to help him through the horrible situation he's found himself in. Let's focus in on that for a second. Clara being there for the doctor, but only in his mind. That is such an accurate depiction of how we tend to think of those who've died. We imagine their loving words, their snarky comments, how they'd react to this new thing that they're not there to see. Every new experience is painted with this color. Oh, she would have loved this. I know exactly what he would say about that. But that's not the only aspect of loss that this scene captures so brilliantly. Consider for a moment that if the doctor was ever going through something, the one person he would talk to about it would have been Clara. And now, he's going through the worst time he's had in this lifetime. And the one person he has to talk to about it, well, she's the one that's gone. So often the people we lose are the very ones we tend to confide in the most. And now we see the doctor taking this hit twice as hard. He's lost his Clara, and he can't even talk to her about it. This brings us to the Asbantium Wall. Put simply, the wall is the rest of our lives. Our lost loved ones sit waiting for us behind that wall, where eventually we'll join them. We just have to grind through all of life, an entire eternity, before we can see them again. The eternity metaphor is just so apt. That's exactly what it feels like every single day. You drudge on without them, like a bird sharpening its beak on the Diamond Mountain. And it hurts. By God, it hurts. We see the doctor reel back in pain with each and every punch, slowly wearing away at this impossible hurdle. And the theme, brilliantly composed by Murray Gold, entitled The Shepherd's Boy. It perfectly captures the slow, sad, monotonous nature of living day after day after day, the droning on of eternity. Every thought we think, every tear we shed, every breath we take without them. Every strike that the doctor makes against this insurmountable obstacle without Clara. And yet, as the song plays, the tempo slowly rises, the key slowly shifts, hardly noticeable as it's happening, until it finally, magnificently crescendos in the beautiful finale, as the doctor finally smashes his way through the Asbantium Wall, representing the day we finally realize that the loss of our loved one is no longer a shadow cast over our life, but instead our memories of them start to become happy once again. All of this conveyed through astounding music. No words are necessary. The dialogue is saved for the beautiful metaphor of the doctor's story, tying the science fiction plot into this wonderful moment, this unforgettable scene. But for those of us with survivor's guilt, in retrospect, the wall makes physical a very intangible desire we all have. If only there were some Herculean feat, some insurmountable task to achieve, some grueling pain I could endure, that if I sacrificed myself doing it, I could bring them back. Because when you've never lost someone, the doctor breaking the wall is simply a badass moment, an impossible achievement of a sci-fi hero that makes you love him all the more. But if you have lost someone, if you know that pain, that emptiness, his impossible feat over 4 billion years, it doesn't seem so outlandish anymore. I get it. I get it now. I can't say I have the unshakable will of the heroic doctor, but I'd be damned if I didn't attempt to punch through that wall too, to bring back those who were taken too soon. I get it. Watching this episode did for me the one thing I would argue a story is supposed to do. And I'm going to get a little philosophical here, so stick with me. In Aristotle's Poetics, the renowned philosopher explores what it means to write a compelling tragedy. And while I think the world of theatrics and storytelling has evolved quite a bit in the last 2,300 years, this specific point holds true. The goal of a tragedy is to induce catharsis, to make the viewer feel something. Books, television, plays, movies, we tend to think of them as entertainment only, a way to pass the time. But Aristotle believed that it was the responsibility of our entertainment to make us think, to make us feel so strongly that by bringing to the surface our latent emotions about these fictional characters, that we may be able to process the emotions we've been holding on to from our real lives. The greatest duty a storyteller can fulfill is not to simply entertain, but to induce catharsis in their audience, to better the world by softening their hearts. In 2019, one of my best friends from high school passed away. It was sudden and unexpected and shook me to my core. I had people to talk to, a stable support system around me, but I could never put into words exactly what it feels like. And then one day, I rewatched Heaven Sent, and I realized I don't need to put it into words anymore. This episode is an expression of what it feels like to process grief, of what I felt like processing my grief. It was my experience actualized. This is the most pure, triumphant form of what storytelling can be. That is the beauty of Heaven Sent. It transcends Doctor Who. It transcends the medium of television. It is a powerful statement, an artistic expression of what it means to love and to lose. And this is why it will forever be my favorite episode of Doctor Who. If you stuck around to the end, I just want to say thank you so much for listening. This is not how I usually do these videos, as I'm sure you can tell, but this was actually a request from my very first $50 patron, Helper Win. He asked me to simply write a video about my favorite piece of Doctor Who media, and so that's what I did. I hope you liked it. It's a little weird compared to my regular content, but yeah. I just want to give a big thank you to all of my patrons and everyone else watching. I want to give you a reminder to go ahead and like, subscribe, ring that bell, and consider supporting me in any way you see fit. I've been Beware. Stay frosty.